Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 13 of Everyone Hates the Commissioner. We have a very special guest tonight, my very own brother, Jason. How you doing, Jason?
Not too bad. How are you guys doing?
We're doing good. Well, I'm doing good. Dan?
Doing great. The
Excellent,
holidays
excellent.
are starting to sink in. We got our little family episode. It's only right during the holiday season, right?
Absolutely. Heck yeah. How's the weather? Well, Jason, I guess we don't really need to go over too much about how we know each other, obviously, you know.
Knowing you
But
since you're a pudgy faced little baby boy.
yeah. But well, why don't I mean, obviously I know, and Dan probably knows the majority, but why don't you just kind of give us a quick rundown of where you grew up and where you're living at now?
Well, I grew up in Wisconsin, split time between Ripon and Rosendale. Then went to college in Milwaukee, was there for about 12 years, and then about 7 years ago now, yeah, like 2015, made the big trek out to the West Coast, and now I'm currently in the suburbs of Portland, Oregon.
How's the weather out in Portland?
Oh, not too bad. Like low 40s and rain, which about sums up our winter. It'll be the same thing for about 5 months. So no complaints, I guess. I don't need to be dealing with any of that -30 Wisconsin crap.
Yeah, we haven't gotten that yet. I'm not sure, Dan, how it looks out by you if you have any white on the ground, but we're slated to get a little bit tomorrow night and then potentially a 6-inch storm on Tuesday night. So we shall see. We shall see. Jason, I know you miss it.
Yeah, sure. So people ask me if I want to go up to the mountain and like go snowshoeing or something. I'm like, nah. I had 30 years of that crap. I'm done with it.
Been
Jason,
there,
is
done
that why
there.
you come? Is that why you came to visit last month and not now when winter's creeping up?
Exactly. I know a lot of people are trying to get trying to get me to come out when it's cold and snowy so my girlfriend can experience Wisconsin winter, and she's like, why would I want to do that? I've heard enough stories to know that that's not it's not a good time.
Yeah, I hear you. So, well, what about you guys? What do you have going on this weekend? Anything fun? Jason, you said you have a soccer game tonight. That's exciting.
Yeah, I've got a soccer game tonight with my co-ed team, and then I have a soccer game tomorrow night with my men's team. Friday night, I have a standing game night. I think I mentioned it to you before, Nick, but we
Oh yes.
meet a couple buddies. One's in Wisconsin, a couple in Texas. We play games and have drinks and generally get a little rowdy, as rowdy as I can by myself in this room playing video games. And then I don't really have any plans for the weekend, but generally that's how it always starts. And then I'll like Sunday night rolls around and I'm asking myself like where the time went, why I didn't spend more time doing nothing.
Yeah, the Sunday scaries hit hard, don't they?
That's for sure. That's for sure. Yeah, how about you?
Just a lot of football for me. I'm doing some fun adulting over the weekend. Getting some new furniture to kind of redo. As you can tell, it's always very dark when I get home in my room. I'm redoing the lighting and the furniture in my living room, so that I'll be adulting this weekend.
Get one of those.
I like it. I'm actually probably looking to get some LEDs at some point.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've actually got some adulting to do as well. Got a pass to so we have two headquarters right near where I live. Nike, their headquarters is about 15 minutes from me, and then Columbia, their headquarters is about 10 minutes. So I have a pass to the Columbia employee store this weekend. Might try and go get some Christmas shopping done. Trying to find someone to hook me up with the Nike one, which is a little bit harder to get a hold of.
Is that Beaverton is where Nike's at?
Yep, that's right. Their campus is awesome from what I can tell. They don't let just anybody go onto it. So
Yeah,
from the outside looking in, it's nice.
you and I drove past that, didn't we, Jason?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
They even have like right across the street from it, they have this like little woods with a trail that's like a running trail, and only Nike employees are allowed on it, even though it's like a fairly large woods. But they have like security guys in their little golf carts rolling around to yell at people. Like, if you're not wearing Nike gear on it, get out.
Oh,
People
that's good.
people just like running onto football fields in a game, you sneak on wearing just all Adidas, suit jacket, and just
Right?
run through the woods.
Yeah, right.
Well, before we continue, Jason, I want to hear. I think we both want to hear, and our international listeners want to hear more about Portland and we'll get into that. But before we do that, I do want to ask: is there a current drink of choice tonight with you guys,
Yeah,
Jason?
I don't have the Basil Hayden's. I want a little I don't know if I'm allowed to say this for your potential future sponsorship here, but I'm drinking a little Four Roses.
Oh,
Um,
there you go.
was kind of hoping I've got actually 2 bottles of I don't know if you guys are familiar with the streamer Dr. Disrespect.
Yes.
But he just released a like a limited bourbon that I managed to get 2 bottles of Black Steel that I was really hoping I'd get sooner than later, but still waiting. So I got the Four Roses tonight, and I've got a
Nice.
little backup beer here for when I inevitably finish this.
Yep, I got there it is. Basil Hayden's. Keep an eye out for us. There's an appearance every episode, believe it or not. But this is a red wine cast finish. This one's got a little bit of a different taste to it, but this is very, very good. Not as easy to find, but very good. So, okay, Jason, I think you and I have talked a little bit about this, but you were able when you moved out west, you were able to find a Packer bar or somewhere to go and watch some Packer games, were you not?
I was. It's a little bit far from where I live now, but there's this little bar called Cerveza that, I mean, you had to get there early, otherwise there's not any room to get in. So actually haven't even managed to get in there for a Packer game. But I've gone there, non-Packer game hours, and it's filled with Packer memorabilia. Like the bathroom is filled with posters and all kinds of cool Packer stuff. But actually, it's one of the more interesting things about NFL Sunday out here. You, for one, I don't get all the Packer games on my local stations, so if it's on and I don't get it, I've got to hit a bar at 10 a.m. to watch the Packers. Roll in there, and obviously, if you guys you go to a bar, it's all Packers. You go to a bar here, and there's about 12 different teams being represented. So it's definitely a change from what I was used to growing up.
And that's actually another question that I wanted to ask is the team that people out there primarily root for, is that Seattle, or is it kind of all over the place, or is there one that's more relevant than others, I guess, out there?
It would be a combination of 2 of them are the most popular, Seahawks and 49ers. A lot of California transplants that come up here with their San Francisco allegiance. So they're that, and then obviously Seattle. But like I said, you go to a bar and there's Panthers fans, Vikings fans, actually quite a few Packer fans at the bars that are near me, at least. We travel well, that's for sure.
Yep.
And yeah, it's not hard to find someone with a shared interest as far as your team goes.
Yeah. So I think I know the answer to this, but have your loyalties been swayed at all since you've been living out west?
You even ask that. It was when I first met my girlfriend and we started like getting serious. I was like, just so you know, you're now a Packer fan. There's no about that. You are now a Packer fan, and she is. She actually, I think she's got more Packer gear than I do. So it worked out. And actually, this is one of my favorite stories about converting her to a Packer fan. The very first game that she ever watched was the infamous Rodgers knee injury, comes back in the second half against the Bears, that comeback.
Yeah.
So it was easy to get her hooked after that one.
Yeah, that's funny because I kind of told Monica the same thing. She wasn't a big football fan, and we're still working on that. But I said, well, just so you know, there is going to be a Packer game on every Sunday for as long as I'm alive. So
True that.
Yep. And like you said, she's got a bunch of gear already. She's got three sweatshirts already. So she's loaded there. But I guess kind of one other thing I wanted to ask you is what do people, because there is a lot of Seahawks fans yet out there by you, what do people generally, kind of from what you're seeing, and maybe you haven't heard or seen a ton, but how do they feel about Russell Wilson now out there?
To be honest, I don't really get much of a sense for like what people are thinking. Just because, like I was saying, there are so many different teams. I've got all the guys that I play soccer with. I've got Chiefs fans. There's a Bills fan. Like I'm the Packer fan. There's like maybe one Seahawks fan, but I haven't talked to him in a while because he busted his leg. So I don't really get much of a sense. So I wish I could answer your question, but
No.
I mean, if you're gonna ask me, I've never liked the guy, so kind of
Yeah.
watching him go down.
I'm right on board with you there.
Yeah, right.
Oh, it's funny.
Yep, definitely. Hearing like, oh, I don't get jet lagged because I spend my entire flight doing workouts down the aisle on a plane. Like, come on, man. The
Well,
one good thing
Did you
about
hear
Russell Wilson
the
though
most
is that
recent one?
what was that?
Did you hear the most recent one? They were interviewing him about like how do you pick yourself back up? He's like, I don't know, I've just got that energy. Like, I don't know, maybe I got tiger's blood or something like that. Everyone was just like, what a corny dude.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
I don't know if you guys listen to Jim Rome at all during the day, but I usually, if I'm able to have a
Jungle.
radio on, yep, the jungle, that's right. He calls him Mr. Cringe, and then it's just kind of spiraled into the cringuation or for the situation, whatever. He's just got so, yeah, that he's awful. But
What does he call his fans again? Like he's got like
his
like a
fans.
special name for him.
well,
I can't remember.
he is
Oh,
Mr.
Jim Rome or
Yeah, Jim Rome. Like
the
he's I mean,
clones.
name for the people that listen, but I can't remember. The
The
clones, that's
clones.
right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Heck yeah. So, well, Jason, do you have a fantasy football team this year?
I do. I mentioned to you guys that I've been watching the podcast here and listening to you guys talk about like all these players that I don't think I recognize half of them. My fantasy league is very, very casual. I think two of the people like barely watch football. And there's only 6 of us, so all of our teams are stacked.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I mean it's fun. We don't even have any like money or anything riding on it. We're just, I think, you know, end of the year we're gonna go out for a dinner and the winner doesn't have to pay for their meal kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
So, but I in my team, yeah, I think I'm like, what are we 13 weeks now? So I think I'm 6-7. Got Joe Burrow, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and D Swift. I had Cooper Kupp, then that was a big blow. What's Jacksonville guy, Etienne? Is that how you say his last name?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yep. A couple other guys I can't remember off the top of my head right here, but yeah, definitely not as intense as you guys are, that's for sure.
That's okay. Sometimes you need that just to kind of,
Mhm.
yeah. Well, sweet. Did you have any certain strategy that you had kind of going into that, but you said it's kind of laid back, just kind of go with it, or did you have something kind of
Yeah,
going into it a little bit?
definitely a strategy. I always save, quarterback for a little bit later on, just try and fill up my running backs, and usually my running backs first, go to my wide receivers after that, depending on who's available. I took Thomas first, you know, um, that's his name, right? Guy from Indy, the Badger.
Jonathan
Oh,
Taylor.
Jonathan Taylor.
Taylor,
Yep.
that's what I'm sorry. But yeah, I took him first, and then waited until like 8th round and got Burrow for my quarterback. And then I'm one of those guys that my last two are the defense and the kicker, and then I switch those out pretty religiously every week. It's not a keeper league or anything like that. So I just go with best available usually. I like the Packers draft strategy, you know.
Yeah. Well, maybe we should well, since you've been watching, Jason,
I
I was
have
kind of
been.
hoping I was kind of hoping this would be a little bit of a surprise, but you have been keeping up. So, Dan,
Oh,
I
and I just
think
want to say, just because I'm not in your guys' league, like I don't want to take away from you guys talking your like strategies and everything. Like if you got big news that you guys want to go at each other about, or some other guys that I've been seeing on the podcast here, by all means, I can
no.
just sit back and crack my little jokes while listening to your back and forth.
Oh, I'll keep that in mind. But and we had I'm not sure if you saw the episode with Brian, but he actually he had traveled to London and during the when the Packers were playing the Giants. So I was really excited to hear about that, and I was equally excited to hear about kind of your situation being a Packers fan in the Pacific Northwest. So yeah, I think that's a really interesting thing for like a lot of people because obviously, we're all kind of in the same little area, so we're all used to the same kind of thing. So I really like hearing a different perspective on that. So, but yeah, if no,
Maybe
don't worry.
if you guys could help me out with this one, how long do you think it'll be until the Packers make another trip up to Seattle? That's got to be coming up sort of
Is it
soonish,
every
right?
4 years, Nick, automatic? Or no, every 3 years automatically, but sometimes it could be every two,
No, it's
depending
every
on the random draws.
it rotate. Yeah, so it rotates, but it also depends on where we finish in our division.
Right.
So like all the first place teams in the NFC like that finish in their division are gonna play each other next year. And at this rate, that's not going to be us in Seattle. I'm not unless Seattle has a crash. I don't know. I could see San Fran kind of pulling away, but maybe not now that they lost Garoppolo. But
I don't
hey, we
know, man.
never.
Purdy, he looked pretty good.
Yeah, yeah,
Mr.
and who knows
Irrelevant.
if I mean if we both take the get second, which could be a very real possibility, Seattle and the Packers being second in our division, then they would be slated to play next year. But that about where I don't know how the NFL figures that one out. That's
Yeah.
beyond me. I know
I,
though, like for like in the AFC when they play each division every 4 years, then they flip flop. So AFC teams they'll play it'll be every 8 years that they would travel besides
okay.
now that 17th game. But in terms of how the NFC how they figure that shit out, I have no idea because I feel like there was a stretch that when we were playing the Cowboys we were going down to Dallas like all the time. I felt like especially kind of towards the end of like Brett Favre's career and the start of Aaron Rodgers' career, I feel like we were down in Dallas a lot, but now it kind of feels like it's been up a little bit more in Lambeau lately, but
Yeah, that was where
don't know.
Rogers made his case for being a successful successor,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, tore it up.
Yeah,
I remember that game. That was a primetime game too. It was
yeah,
at
I
night. It was
remember.
dark, so maybe it wasn't prime time, but it
That
was
was
late
absolutely a
afternoon.
prime time because I remember where I was. I was at a bar in Milwaukee, Wisconsin called Rascals.
Real,
Yeah,
look at that.
yeah. I just
That's
remember
a
seeing. I mean, like, all right, things might not be so bad.
that's a hell of a memory. That was a long time ago. Oh, good. Well, hey, before we get into some more football talk, because there's going to be some more of that, I think we need to dive into our favorite segment. And that's what I was going to tell you, Jason. I was hoping that this one would be a
Ooh.
little bit of a surprise, but since you've been keeping up, I think you know which one this is.
Yeah, yeah. You showed me this when I saw
Oh,
you a
yeah,
few weeks
that's
back
right.
over at the parents' house.
Yeah, well, my apologies. I had several beers that afternoon, and I might have.
Hey, you both.
So, Dan, should we see who Obi has for this Thursday night?
Yeah, but I need to ask Nick, did you have a pep talk with Obi? Because that boy is struggling a little bit.
He is. There was a stretch when he lost like 4 games in a row that in our pick'em league that whatever he picked, I picked the opposite because he was doing so
The
bad.
poor boy. He's not in there with you. You're not gonna hurt his feelings, right?
Oh,
No,
no. I
no.
mean, he gets to win either way. He gets a treat next week. So
Right. I'm
Yes, he
assuming he gets
gets.
the second treat as well, right?
Yes, he gets both treats. He doesn't care. It just depends on which one he wants first. But yeah, well, let's see what Obi's got what he's got on his mind for
Guys gotta get
tomorrow night's
some music
game.
for these.
What's- yeah, we should.
Everyone to week 14 of Obi's picks. We have the Las Vegas Raiders against the Los Angeles Rams this Thursday night. They're a little beat up. They're both struggling this year, but it should be a pretty good game. Obi, let's see who you got, buddy. Come on. Come here.
Ooh, he thought about it.
He did.
Raiders, everyone.
Oh. Looks like he picked a tie.
did the old fake out again.
I know he's been doing that. He'll like kind of nose one way and then it goes the complete opposite. Jason, oh sorry, Dan.
Oh, you're good.
No,
So
I-
you can see the paw of approval on the Raiders this week. I think I'm with Obi this week. If we're picking outright, I don't see how the Rams can really beat anybody right now. The Raiders have so much offensive weapons. They just haven't been able to keep it together. But I think
Yeah.
Obi might get back on his winning ways this week.
Yeah, I think so
Too.
too.
Turn it around a little bit.
He was, and then we went on a 4-game skid again. Oh, dude, I tell you.
Well, he's still
But
cute, so he's got that going for him.
Yeah, but I agree. I think unless Baker Mayfield comes in and which isn't going to happen. He's
Yeah,
done.
I was reading that he's
done.
probably not gonna start this week, but I mean, we've got him, or we've got the Rams at least the week after our bye, right? So
Yep.
fingers crossed that Baker Mayfield goes out there and does what he does best and suck.
Yeah,
I was
and-
actually going to ask you guys part of that. Like, how do you feel about Baker? And do you think that was a good play for the Rams to pick him up and give him a look?
Jason.
Well, I don't know who Stafford's backup is, and how he's been doing. I haven't really been following the Rams all too closely. But as far as I mean, obviously with Stafford going down, they're going to be a little short in the quarterback room, and I think I don't know. And Baker Mayfield makes a good commercial, so that's all I can really say about him. Like he's better than probably a lot of backups, you'd think. But I don't have confidence in that at all.
No, I agree 100%. I think his days are numbered and he's going to be carrying a clipboard for a long time if he wants to. I don't think he's going to be. I think the team that drafted him first overall didn't want to give him his 5th-year option. Maybe they did, but they didn't extend him. Traded him off for a late round pick to the Panthers, and he made it just over half the season. I mean, not even starting, just like with the team, just over half the season, and they let him go. So actually Richard Sherman was, and we were talking about Jim Rome. Richard Sherman was on with Jim Rome a couple days ago, and he asked Jim Rome asked Richard Sherman about what he thought about Baker Mayfield, how he would do, and actually if San Fran maybe would pick him up because of the injury to Garoppolo, and he said, absolutely not. That would be an awful decision. And he goes, I don't understand why all of these teams keep giving these first round quarterbacks shot after shot after shot. He goes, clearly what he's done, look at his tape over the last 5-6 years. Do you think he deserves? He goes, it's the only reason they're getting an extra chance or 2 chances is because they're a first round pick. Their tape isn't that much better than some of these guys that come in late in the draft or whatever. So I thought that was a really interesting take and he's not wrong. I mean, he's right 100% that first round quarterbacks, they just keep getting, they get extra chances to prove themselves because of their where they're drafted. But I don't think he's done. I really do. And I give the guy credit. He was one tough son of a bitch. He was out there playing last year with a torn labrum and he was scraping by, but give him credit there, but he's just not. I don't think has a future really as a starting quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah,
We're
and
not
I don't know if his like demeanor and his attitude, if he's gonna be able to accept his role as a backup, in all sports, especially like in basketball, like Russell Westbrook, they moved him to sixth man. Carmelo, when he got moved to sixth man a couple years ago, and some of them are able to kind of understand their role moving forward and stay in the league and make an impact. Obviously, in the NFL, if you're a backup quarterback, it's tough to make an impact directly, but I think he could be a really good backup. I mean, if you look at Miami, like when Teddy Bridgewater was out, or when Tua was out, Bridgewater was able to step in, play well, get him a win. I agree. I don't think even if Baker plays well with the Rams, which I don't see how he's gonna with all their weapons hurt, I think he's either gonna have to accept his role as a backup, or else I think his time in the NFL is over. And to Jason's point, Peyton Manning makes good commercials too, but I think that's as far as the comparisons go for those.
Yeah,
Yeah, I feel like Peyton Manning can't. I think the only thing he's really struggled at since he came into the NFL was running. Other than that, he's been pretty damn good at almost everything that he does.
You ever see that bootleg he did against the Dallas though?
I'm sure I have, but
he ran a naked bootleg because he knew, and I hate that I forget. I think it was Randy Gregory or Lawrence. It was one of those DNs. He knew he was going to crash, and he ran just a naked bootleg. And I mean, it looked like he was slow motion running into the end zone with the whole defense because no one knew he was going to do it. And it was like the guy just had it up here.
Yeah, was that when he was playing for Denver?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
He scored on it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a touchdown. I remember that play. Absolutely.
Did he rolled out to the left, right?
Yeah, and just all 11 guys just crashed, and I mean, never saw it coming.
Yeah,
Walker as he goes into the end zone.
Yeah. Oh man. So Dan, I guess give us my gosh, I don't hope you don't hear my computer dinging. Give us a little update on how you're what's going on in our league at fantasy.
Yeah, so I've got kind of it mapped out for our viewers who are very bought into our season. We've got 4 teams who are locked into the playoffs. So it's week 14. It's the last week of the regular season. The top 2 teams are going to get a bye, which we know in fantasy is so important because anyone can lose any week. I have been a victim of that before, going in as a number 1 seed and losing to the 8 seed, and it is the worst feeling in the world. So I like how our league is set up with 12 teams. The top 6 make it. Top 2 get a bye. You got Jake sitting in first place. He's not locked into a bye, but it looks pretty good for him. And then you've got Aaron and myself, and I'm in second. Aaron's in third, but we're both 9-4. I have the tiebreaker for points. So if I win this week, I should be pretty much locked in on points. But Aaron, if he wins and I lose, he could sneak ahead of me. So that's a big change there. And then you've got Brian sitting in fourth. So Brian's got his spot locked up. He's most likely going to be looking at 4th place based off where his points and record are. But then you've got Isaac is 7-6. He's sitting in 5th place. And then we've got some guy named Nick sneaking into the top 6 right now. So you, Bo, Stu, and M are all tied at 6 and 7, but you have that big point tiebreaker. So you're in 6th right now. But the fun thing is the top 6 players all play except for one matchup. The top 6 play the bottom 6 this week. So there's going to be a lot of must-win games. Specifically Stu and M, because they're the bottom 2 with tiebreakers. They really have to win this week or else they're out. But it'll be fun to see the matchups. Cody mathematically could get in, but because of him being 5-8 and with his low point score, he's probably on the outside looking in. And then John and Kai are going to be fighting over that toilet bowl.
Yeah, I believe I looked. There's 3 teams that are eliminated, and like you said, 4 that are already locked in. It's just a matter of positioning.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'll pull this up, but the thing that's going to be really interesting is, so Cody is eliminated. John's eliminated, and Kai is eliminated from getting into the playoffs.
Cody's technically not eliminated, but he pretty much is, just because he'd have to score like 300 points this week to win and then get like a tiebreaker, I believe.
Oh, well, good luck, Cody.
Yeah.
I wish you the best. I think Cody's going to be on next week, actually. Anyways, and I was doing some thing. I have what I've got for me is I have 100 more points scored than the team behind me. So as long as I get a win, I'm in. And Jake, I told Jake to make sure that he sits all of his guys because he has a bye. He's in the playoffs already. He might as well sit his starters and rest them so they don't get hurt. I told him that. I don't know how he's going to take that. But anyways, so I was giving him a hard time. And then we need Brian to beat Isaac to knock him out to give me that first round pick in the bottom 6. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
So
and really, like you said, you have 100 points more than Bo, and you have 128 more than Stu. So Bo, Stu, and M, they really have to have you lose. If you win, you're pretty much in. Regardless, it just depends on if you're going to be 5th or 6th. But if Isaac loses, he actually has less points than both Stu and M. So Isaac could go from 5th down to 7th, 8th, or 9th with a loss. So like you said, you're really looking at those last 4 teams to see who's going to finish up where. I'm just hoping that I win this week and I can lock up that bye to just at least give me a little bit more breathing room going into the playoffs.
Hell yeah.
12-person league with 6 people in the playoffs.
Yep.
Awesome. Awesome. Man, that's intense.
Yep. And then actually, Jason, so we have the 6, like I said, 6 people in the playoffs. So then we have a 6th person, the bottom 6 enter a toilet bowl. So which is essentially a playoff, but if you lose, you advance. Instead of winning, you advance. So then the 11th and 12th ranked teams have a bye because they were the worst. So then they get a bye to continue to continue into the toilet bowl, and whoever loses all 3 games, or if one of the teams in the byes lose the next 2 games, then they end up dead last. Even if you finish 7th, you could lose out, and then you could end up last, but they end up with the first overall pick of our draft in spring. Is how that works for us.
But they have a punishment, so they can't just throw it. They have to buy the keg for next year's party.
I was gonna say, like, where's the punishment here? Can you just put in terrible players? Like, I was wondering about that. All right.
Yep. We voted on that, and I think kind of as we get deeper into this, because this is a dynasty league, and so everybody that are you familiar with dynasty leagues?
Mostly just from watching you guys talk about it.
Yeah. So you just, whoever you have on your team, you keep them. And the only way that your team changes is via draft and trades, and then picking guy up in the free agent. The only draft we have is a 3-round rookie draft. So it's not like you can restart completely over. So, but yeah, it's, I think as we get into this in a couple years, maybe the punishments might get a little bit more interesting than just buying a keg. But I think buying a half barrel of beer for a party is a good start. So, but yeah, it'll be an interesting, really interesting last week, and I'm already getting a little stressed out. It begins tomorrow. I have one player, Josh Jacobs. Hopefully he's going to go tomorrow and need a big game out of him, and then other than that, I think I'm gonna have to wait till Sunday. So,
and you are actually favored this week, Nick. However, Jake doesn't have a QB in yet. So you're favored, but it's going to be a good matchup. So if you want to beat him, so I can make sure I sneak in as that top 2. But you have some really good matchups. You've got Burrow going against Cleveland, Jacobs against the Rams, Garrett Wilson against Buffalo, who's been giving up a ton of yards through the air. CeeDee Lamb against Houston. So you have some really good matchups this week at the right time.
I'm excited. I'm hoping, actually, I'm not sure if you guys know this, but starting tomorrow, begin the month of Nick. So I'm going to have a lot of time for football. I took off till tomorrow it'll be my last day, and won't be going back to work until January 3rd. I'm looking forward to it. Hell yeah.
Jealous.
So, anyways,
Got any big projects or anything like that planned for that
well,
time off?
well, I've been making myself a list of things that I want to do. I feel
Sit around, drink, and cook.
Yep. I've been
List over.
I mean, yeah, I've been spending, I'm planning on spending a lot of time with my pit boss Smoker, and I'm gonna do a brisket. I want to make some more bacon.
I was gonna ask, do you need Jason and mine's addresses to ship us some bacon or
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sure, it's delivered like right to my door and not to like the box out there, because I want to make sure I get it as soon as it's delivered.
Right.
Yep. On ice. Yep. Express ship it. Yep. I'll do that. You know,
Spare no expense for you. I'm not paying for
yeah, right. But that's kind of the plan. Like I said, just making a list of things I want to try to, around here
Nick,
get
you
done.
can just send mine with the bottle of Basil Hayden's that you owe me from our head-to-head loss.
Yes, Dan, it is on my list. Next time I go to Costco, I will be getting you and myself a bottle of that. I just
it. If you
we
want to
haven't
include
got
one with my shipment as well, go for it. I'm not going to
send
stop
that
you.
way out west, yes. But well, do we have any thoughts for about Obi's picks the Thursday night game tomorrow night? You think the Rams have a chance?
I mean, yeah, based on how the Raiders started the year, I'm like real hesitant to go with them, but like they have been turning it around lately. So I know we still have this coming up as far as our upsets. I almost went with the Rams, thinking like maybe there's something there, but I mean, like the Raiders seem like they might have turned a bit of a corner. But we'll see. I mean, that's our boy out there, Devontae. Look, he was looking real good last week, man.
Yeah.
So I think that Obi's got this one with the Raiders, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I just think the Rams right now with all the injuries on offense, I just don't see how I could pick them to beat anybody right now. With that being said, to Jason's point, the Raiders can beat anybody and they can look terrible against anybody.
Yeah,
I just think with the injuries to the Rams, I think I almost said Oakland. The Raiders they're just going to have too much firepower. I don't think the Rams are going to be able to score.
Yep. Yeah. Last week it definitely helped. I didn't get a chance to watch the whole game or anything like that, but I was watching highlights, and I mean, it seemed like Carr could throw himself a little bit of a tea party back there and knit himself a sweater and then throw the ball, and he had all day, man. So I mean, if you can get pressure on Carr, he's definitely gonna try and throw a few to the defense, but I don't see the Rams being able to hang with them.
I think, I agree. I think that
Nick, I was going to ask you a follow-up to that because Jason just talked about how good an offensive line can look. Did you watch? I'm guessing you watched Monday night this week with the Bucks.
I did not actually.
Okay, it was a great game. I mean, I hated that the Bucks came back and won, but their offensive line is so bad. Brady was just, I mean, I don't know how many pressures they put on him, but I don't think I saw maybe 5 or 6 pass attempts where he had a clean pocket. So that's going to be huge as we move into the playoffs. Those teams who can stay healthy, especially up front to protect those quarterbacks, as like you saw with Joe Burrow last year, in the Super Bowl, they just couldn't keep up with the Rams pass rush. So I think that'll be something interesting to watch moving forward. You got guys like Rodgers, who's had a beat up offensive line. Yeah. The Bengals are getting a better offensive line. The Chiefs improved their offensive line. So I think that'll be something that's going to be huge with the playoffs coming up.
Yeah, it is. And I can still, Tom Brady, he's gonna sneak in, like we've talked about this. He's gonna sneak in with 9 or 10 wins, and he's gonna win the division because that division is so bad. And then watch him get matched up against like a Daniel Jones or somebody that without any playoff experience, and he's gonna sneak a win because he's gonna have a home game because he's gonna win the division, and then they're gonna go on this little run. But I agree that offensive line is awful, and Tom Brady, who is the best ever to get at getting the ball out as fast as possible, even if he's struggling to do that now, that's that's saying something.
And
So
that's something that I've seen Dan say here a bunch of times over, like, well, I've been watching you guys' podcast, that you can't bet against Tom Brady, because every time you do, he just proves you wrong. And as
yeah.
much as I hate it, it's just it's the tail of the tape right there.
You know, there was a stretch where when I was older, how long is that guy been playing football now? 23 years, 22 years. He's 45 now, so probably maybe upwards of 24 years. So obviously at the start of his career, I was younger and I didn't really understand how football went. But when I was starting to understand football, I thought the guy was amazing. Well, because he was. And then I transitioned to this period where I was so sick of seeing Tom Brady on TV. I was so sick of watching him. I was so sick of seeing him on primetime games and all of that, hearing about him. But I'm starting to transition back. Like, how can you not just be like amazed with what this guy is doing? It's just incredible. I mean, I understand. I agree with you, Jason. You know, it's like, but at the same time, it's like, holy fuck, he just keeps doing it.
And to your point, when you get in the playoffs, when records mean nothing, are you going to pick a Giants team who's clearly better from top to bottom than the Buccaneers? But are you going to pick a Giants team with Daniel Jones over a Buccaneers team with Tom Brady?
He finds a way, man.
Yeah.
Finds a way.
Yep, he does. And then not to mention, like we've kind of talked about the Giants in the last couple of weeks, is those teams can keep stacking the box to stop Saquon because they know Daniel Jones isn't that big of a threat with his arm. Maybe it was an anomaly that week that we played them because Daniel Jones looked really good with his arm that week, but for whatever reason,
yeah, what is it about us making average quarterbacks look really good? Like Ryan Tannehill just destroyed us. Kirk Cousins destroyed us. Daniel Jones destroyed us.
I think it has something to do with there's a guy, what's his name? Let me think here.
Is he number 23?
No. How about Joe Barry? Huh.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's something to do with Joe Barry.
I got that written down here in my notes. Fire Joe Barry.
Yes.
Nick and I are in agreement.
I've got a few guys that I text through every single Packer game, and I should probably just keep it like copied, ready to paste over and over again. Can we fire Joe Barry yet?
Yeah, it's pathetic. It's on record, it's on the internet. I was actually standing up for Joe Barry about 6 weeks ago, and I thought he was. Because our offense was so bad and our defense was on the field a lot, but seeing what I'm seeing these last few weeks, man, no adjustments. This 4 quarters scheme is just pitiful. You draft corners in the first round, they were man corners in college, and then you tell them to sit back. Hey, actually, don't do what you're really good at and what we drafted you for, and we just paid $24 million a year or whatever it is, $21 million a year. Why don't you just sit back in the zone and kind of see what happens? It's not working. We need to move on. Either he needs to fix it, he needs to make a change, needs to go back to some man, switch things up, blitzes. I don't know, but 4 quarters.
That's the thing right there. Like you said, he's got to change something up, and he hasn't done it. It's just the same thing every single week. And I mean, watching the Eagles against us, what was that, 2 weeks ago? Flashes of Kaepernick back in the day. Like I felt like we're spinning our wheels still when it comes to like mobile quarterbacks and defenses letting us down. That, say what you want about Rodgers not being able to win that second Super Bowl, but he hasn't really had much help on the other side of the ball for a decade now. So
yeah.
Yep.
Here's a fun fact, Nick. I talked to you about this last week when news came out about the Badgers hiring Luke Fickell out of Cincinnati. Did you know that in 2021, Matt LaFleur actually preferred to hire Jim Leonhard as the Green Bay Packers defensive coordinator, but Leonhard turned it down to stay with Wisconsin?
Yes.
I remember that, yeah.
With Jim Leonhard not getting the head coaching job at Wisconsin, I know he's talked about possibly staying, but he's got to be a little hurt because he always says that's his dream job. How do you think Packer fans would feel with getting Jimmy Leonard to stay in his home state, but now for a new team in the NFL on the Packers?
Well, I think he's saying that because he kind of has to, because we're kind of too far into this now to make a coordinator change.
Oh yeah, not this season, but I mean next
Yeah.
year.
I think if Joe Barry was moved on, I think that Jim Leonard would really consider it a lot more seriously than he did. Now, maybe that not that he didn't before, but I think you would. I think you would really think about it this time. So, yeah, because he kind of does a lot of fun stuff, and credit to him and kind of doing a lot of. They don't recruit the best in the country because of our academic standards, which is not a bad thing. I appreciate that about the University of Madison. I really do. But you don't get those top-notch athletes with that. But hey, they do a lot of developing, and he does a lot of his schemes. Confuses a lot of very, very good teams, and they kind of hang in there. Being a top 5, top 10 defense for however many years that he's been a coordinator there, it's really, really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, Wisconsin's had a top-notch defense nationally, like you said, with very average recruits. We recruit really well in the state with our linemen, and we get some good running backs from New Jersey. But yeah, outside of that, we're working with middle of the tier players. And obviously, he had a really great career in the NFL and learned a lot from some really good defensive coordinators that he played with. So I know it's a popular pick. It's probably a biased pick because we all are familiar with Jim Leonard and his Wisconsin roots, but I would be all for it. And I think it'd be fun for the fan base to just build a little bit of faith back up that may have been broken over the last couple of years with all the Rodgers and Gutekunst and kind of all the drama going on. So I think socially, but also professionally, because you still got to hire the right coach, right? But I think it would be a good hire.
Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't realize that one of the reasons, like this is something you said there, Nick, that one of the reasons we have a hard time recruiting in Wisconsin is like because we have a high academic standard. I had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like you said, cool. Like it's a problem I don't mind having.
Yeah. But those guys, and I'm not saying that they're dummies when I say this, but you can see like Ohio State that just brings in. I mean, I think it's really fair to say that is the most athletic team every single year in the entire country. And I'm not saying that they're dummies. Again, they're probably very smart guys.
Intelligence.
But yes, exactly. Yep. So, well, while we were talking about the Packers, I have a couple questions for you guys. And Jason, I will start with you, and then Dan, do you have what do you think the Packers do? Because let's just say if the season ended right now, maybe Dan, you know this offhand. Jason, maybe you do too. I don't, but at 5-8, if the season ended right now, I would bet that we're probably right around the 10th overall pick. So let's just say we have the 10th overall pick. Jason, what kind of where would you like to see the Packers go with that pick?
Man, I've thought about this, well, let me respond to say one thing. I spend a lot of time like reading like Packer forums and whatnot, and I see these like reactionary fans calling for LaFleur to be fired, and I'm like, dude, guy just went 13-3 / 13-4 for 3 years in a row. You're asking for him to be fired? Get out of here with that shit. Nonsense. Moving on to like where the issue is here. Like, part of me says O-line, but we draft like 3 offensive linemen every draft, and nobody kind of saw nobody saw Bach, like, I don't know, being made of paper all of a sudden. I mean, granted, this last game he was out because of an appendectomy. Like, who saw that coming? No one. And like, you obviously with our receiver room, you like gut reactions like, well, if there's a great receiver that can come in and perform right away, maybe. But I mean, Watson has turned around this season from what we thought was like a little bit worrisome those first like 6 weeks or whatever to now averaging 2 touchdowns a week for the last 4 weeks,
Pretty
which
close,
is
yeah.
ridiculous. And then Dobbs, I mean, is he coming back next week? I know he was like there was a chance of him coming back last week. Now we have the bye week, so week after that against the Rams. Do we think Dobbs is going to be back?
I think he is coming back in the near future. He was in a high ankle sprain, I believe. So
Yeah. So I don't. As far as what we do in the draft, I I would have to say any sort of like interior defensive or like lineman or like linebacker or something like that. That would probably be where I go. Unless if there's like a lights out punter. Can we bring McAfee back?
Yeah, right. Dan?
Yeah, I've been crying about all the first and second round picks we have on the defense, but I've read a lot of articles that people are like, wow, this is the year we draft a wide receiver. We go get a top wide receiver. I actually think this is the year that you don't do that now because we literally have so many young wide receivers on the team now that are playing well. If we re-sign Lazard, because it's a big piece, if we re-sign Lazard, which I believe we will, I don't think he's going to draw a ton of money in the free agency.
A lot on the market for him there.
Yeah, so if we re-sign him and you've got Watson coming along and Dobbs coming along, I actually don't go wide receiver this next year because I don't feel like that's going to help us. I just feel like it's another piece that's going to set us back. I think we should have been drafting wide receiver 2 last year, 2-3 years ago, obviously. I would go against Jason's point. He's like, we always draft offensive linemen. Yeah, I would go get one of those top offensive tackles. If you can get one of the top 2 or 3 that is going to be a plug and play, right? Not these guys in the 3rd round that it's like he might work out, he might not. Otherwise, I'm going with some pass rush. I just believe you can never have enough pass rush. Our defensive line is okay. They're not great. You definitely don't draft a defensive back with all the draft capital we already have included there. So get me like a 4-down linebacker or get me some pass rush or like a new starting left tackle.
Yep.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I'm on board. I guess because when I was thinking about this question too after I wanted you to kind of let you guys know about this one. I thought about a lot about that, and I think that hopefully Enoch Barre, who's looked very good as a rookie so far this year as a 4th or 5th rounder, he looks good on the outside. Gary kind of bounces all over the defense on the front, either as an outside linebacker and sometimes they put him inside. But I would, yeah,
man, like he was doing so good.
Yeah, but I agree with both of you. Well, when it comes to defense, either an interior defensive lineman to put next to Kenny Clark, and who knows? I think we're all forgetting about Devontae Wyatt, who we did take in the 1st round, and he's the future. I don't know, but maybe they're just kind of bringing him along slowly. But a pass rusher or an interior defensive line because Dean Lowry is going to be gone. I think that'd be really, really big for us. And I agree with the more than enough capital and money in the secondary. We gotta force some pressure on these quarterbacks.
And here's another name. Love the guy. Love that we still have him. But have you heard Kenny Clark's name a lot this year? I haven't.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're saying that because I was waiting for Nick to finish it. I was gonna bring up the same exact thing. I haven't heard much about him. Makes me wonder if it's on him or do we not have enough help around him that like the other offenses can neutralize him and not make him a factor at all. But yeah, I haven't heard him at all like the last who knows how long.
Yeah, and I think it's probably a combination to your point, Jason, because we don't have that top defensive end, especially when Gary went down, right? We don't really have that guy in the edge that any team really has to double. So we can double Kenny Clark, and we're so bad on the back end that we have to drop 5-6 in coverage. So, we're not loading up the box, which is going to free up, extra space for Kenny. So I think it's a little bit of both, to your point. But at the same time, there's some D tackles out there right now that are just absolute animals that even when you double team them, they're causing havoc. So if we go and get like that top defensive tackle, I think he's out of Georgia. I'd be totally cool with that. Just a total guy that just creates havoc. playing quarterback. I've heard a lot of announcers the last couple of weeks talking about when you can get pressure up the middle instead of off the edge, it just completely changes it because the pocket's gone. Green Bay loves to just draft those freaks that can play kind of all over, that are athletes. If we want to keep drafting those guys, I'm fine with it. But at some point, you have to put them into a scheme, and you can't just rely on athleticism alone in the NFL, which is why we're talking about Joe Barry being fired, because he has zero scheme. But I also am huge on that offensive line. We've got Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon, who are two very capable running backs. You have to stay balanced. So if we can find that next tackle that you can just plug in since, at day one on a rookie contract, kind of build around that, I feel like that's kind of the route you have to go. But also going back, if we win a couple more games down the stretch, which it looks like we're going to keep trying to win, we might fall closer to that 12, 15 spot, and you're not looking at a top defensive tackle or a top offensive tackle anymore. We might just have to pick best available.
Yep.
So now that we've all discussed that, what are you guys gonna say when we draft another quarterback?
Not happening, no way. And, Dan, so it's really funny that you bring up that point that our a prototypical Packer that we draft in the first, especially in the first round. I remember Jason, is I'm gonna jog your memory a little bit.
Uh-oh.
There was a guy that we had drafted who was all across the board at the top 2 or 3 in the whole category on all of the combine categories. And when we drafted him, I was just getting into bed after the first round, and Jason, you had texted me. You said, "Dude, this guy's numbers were absurd. Why did nobody take him until the end of the first round?" Do you remember who that guy was? And I responded, "You don't remember?" And I responded with, "He has motor questions."
Was it Gary?
Nope.
Yeah, I don't know.
We're going back a little bit.
Way back.
Dan, anybody that maybe comes to your mind that had a hell of a combine but had some motor issues or questions coming out of the draft?
No, I mean, we've drafted so many corners, but I feel like none of them are like top picks. So no.
How about a guy named Nick Perry?
Oh yeah, that's why I don't know the name, because he was gone. Oh man, yeah.
Well, we paid him. Remember, we paid him that monster contract, and then right after he had that career year, and then never to be heard from again.
That money can be a motivator.
Yeah, right. Yeah, to stop playing.
I like that you said that, Nick, because look at these guys that get drafted later. We talked about this a few weeks ago. TJ Watt. Oh, he doesn't have the size. He doesn't have the 40 speed. Dude, the guy's got a motor like his brother. They just don't stop. Who was the number 1 draft pick like 6-7 years ago? Jadeveon Clowney. What has he done? Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's an athletic freak.
1 or 2 like decent years, right? But he's
right.
No.
Yeah, he has no motor. He takes plays off, which he did in college. If you're taking plays off in college, what are you going to do in the pros? When you're not able to get to the quarterback just 1 play out of 3 when you feel like it.
And
so,
when your pockets are lined with a little bit of cash now.
Yep.
Yeah, it's too bad, but well, why don't we kind of transition into maybe some more NFC North talk, but teams outside of the Packers. Well, we played the Bears this last weekend. I was happy if we're in a rebuild mode, that's fine, but we're going 2-15 because we cannot lose to the Bears. I hate losing to the Bears in the worst way.
Is that 8 in a row now for Rodgers?
I think something like that. Yeah.
What is it, like 20? I think he's like 24-5 as a starter. I think they said at the game.
Yeah. It was such a strange feeling because this year has been so frustrating, and we go into this game against the Bears and we're down. What were we down? 12, 14. I don't remember exactly how much we were down going into the fourth quarter, and I'm like, I'm not too worried, to be honest. I mean, it's the Bears.
Yeah.
That's all LaFleur had to do after his halftime speech. Was like going into the locker room, talk to everybody, like, guys, it's the Bears. And then we
Yep.
go out and win.
And Nick and I were having banter before the game because I this is why I love Nick, because his integrity is unrivaled. He's like, you don't lose to the Bears. And I'm like, if we lose, I'm not going to be that mad because it means we get a better draft pick. And we haven't had a top draft pick in forever. And I told you, Nick, I said, I'm not going to be mad if we beat the Bears because it's going to feel good. But I was like, I won't really care. And Nick's like, no, dude, we have to beat the Bears. The season is not a good season if you don't beat the Bears. So
Yep. Yeah, and actually, it's funny you say that. I felt really confident going into the fourth quarter as well. But I did text you, Dan, after the first quarter. I said we're gonna lose to the fucking Bears because weren't we down like 14-3 or 14-7 at that point? And we looked and Fields was running all over our ass at that time. And I'm like, no, this is not good.
And Alexander was, I don't know what he was doing for that first half, man. Like Jair he was getting beat left and right. And then I was shitting on him all game long, like to people around me and in my text messages and stuff. Then he comes up with the big pick to seal the game there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, sorry if we got this right back to the Packers. It's
Hey,
kind of hard for us to not talk about them.
That's okay.
But
so what do you guys think of the Bears? I mean, seeing what you see, do you obviously I think Justin Fields is a bright spot, but any other thoughts?
What did I respond, Nick? I'm reading our text, and what did I say? The night is young. I foresee at least 2 more touchdowns for us.
Yeah, you got that right on the dot.
18-point fourth quarter. That's right.
Yeah. But I mean, obviously, besides Justin Fields, I think their future is somewhat bright. They got to protect him a little bit. That offensive line is bad.
I will wait until I see it when it comes to Bears and quarterbacks. Like, say what you want about how like he's got potential. I'll believe it when I see it. All right.
Yeah. I agree, and not to mention he's from Ohio State.
I've heard you mention that in past podcasts. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I looked it up. Tom Tupa.
Is that the punter?
That's the Ohio State guy, that quarterback that ended up playing like as a punter for like
he was a good punter.
Right?
Yeah.
He played on the Patriots against the Packers in the Super Bowl.
When you can remember a punter's name, he probably was pretty good.
Yeah, right. I remember looking it up. And I'm like, I've heard this name before. Like, what?
But that's just because quarterbacks are athletes. You know, they turn all these quarterbacks into tight ends and wide receivers.
Yeah, here we go. Hey, and speaking about the NFC North, though, did you guys know that the Lions are actually favored against the Vikings this week? What? Or they were briefly. Maybe the line is moved, but did you see, Dan? Did you see in our Pick'em League? It's a 0.5-point spread. They're telling you to pick the winner. There's no spread there.
So I've been looking at like ESPN and stuff here. I mean, sorry to cut in here, but like I was looking at it and there was like a 1.5 point spread on like CBS or something like that, or a 2.5 point spread, but Lions favored.
Yeah. Yep. That's absurd, man. I don't know what's going on there. If they think that they're gonna continue that hot run up, because their defensive backs are not that. I mean, maybe besides Harrison Smith, who is a really, really solid safety, but their corners are hurting. So they could eat this week. Amon-Ra could eat, and who knows how soon we're going to see Jameson Williams kind of transitioned into that offense. He did get it on the field last week. I don't think he played much, but I don't know. You know what they say when you're betting games or you're picking games, when there's one that's that obvious, go against it, man.
Remember when Dallas was either a favorite or like a 1-point underdog to Minnesota, and everyone's like, that's fishy, and Dallas hammered them. But who are the smartest people? Who's the smartest people in sports? Any sport?
Bettors.
Gambler.
Vegas.
Yes.
Those fucking guys know.
And I want you guys to realize this. I've heard you say this on multiple podcasts here that you guys like you're not giving gambling advice. I
Oh,
live
yeah.
in a legal sports betting state, so give me all the advice you want
Hey,
because I'm willing to make some
I
money.
am telling you this, and Nick knows I like the Lions. Lions are like my second favorite team because they've always been so bad. But that line looks awful fishy. But if I had a couple $100 to bet in a legal state, which Wisconsin is not, I would be going with the public and hammering Minnesota.
Yeah, I don't.
I might be wrong, but
Yeah, what was it this last week? I tried to pick all 14 games correctly because my $2 bet would have paid out like 4,000 or something like that. I got 10 out of 4.
that's not bad.
Yeah,
10
not
out of
bad.
14.
Hey, that
Unfortunately, that
would have
doesn't pay anything.
that would have won our pick'em league last week.
Oh, nice.
Yep, it would have.
My secret was I'm sure you guys are familiar with Kurt Benkert. He posted his picks. I'm like, sure, I'll go with Kurt Benkert's picks, and he picked him correct.
Did you pick the winners or against the spread?
Just winners, straight up money line. Yeah. But no, every single week I've got a little money going on games. Usually I try and pick like a five or six like game parlay, I guess. I don't know if that's correct term for like picking winners or whatever, but I usually try and pick a few out there ones that pay ridiculous amounts. $1 that gets me 500 or something like that. Haven't hit one yet, obviously. Otherwise, I would have already told you about that. But no, it's fun. It's definitely a lot of fun. Sorry to take us away from the NFC North talk.
Oh, we love it.
No. Hey, if there's something about this podcast and something that we do every single time is we go down rabbit holes, Jason. So it is way more than okay. But yeah, I mean, I guess
please bet responsibly.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Can we edit a disclaimer on it?
Yep. And we do not give out advice. We are not professionals, all of that stuff, but have fun and be safe if you have a couple extra bucks to play with.
You must be 21 to drink Basil Hayden's.
Yeah. Yeah. Hell yeah. I guess
well, let's one second before we go on, because we didn't really go into much more of the NFC North there. We were talking about Lions Vikings. Do you think that the Lions have an answer to Justin Jefferson? Does anybody?
No one does. And I give credit. Yes, yeah, he is, and I give a lot of the credit to his success to Kevin O'Connell for sure, because
the coach or offensive coordinator.
That's the head coach, and he calls the plays too, I believe. But being like probably the best wide receiver in the game right now, and he still seems like he's wide open every single time. And the defenses know how good he is; they just still can't. He's still wide open all the time, and that could be credit to his route running too. And I'm not giving Kevin O'Connell all the credit, but I think you got to give him some credit for getting that guy open. But yeah, like you said, I don't think anybody can really cover Justin Jefferson.
Here's a stat for the Lions in the last 6 weeks, and they've been doing this all season, but in the last 6 weeks, they have scored 27, 15, but then 31, 31, 25 against Buffalo, and 40 last week. So their offense has been scoring points. They also scored 35, 36, and 45 in 3 previous weeks before their bye. And that was even with Amon-Ra hurt. So that offense is kind of nasty right now.
Yep.
I mean, so Goff is playing ball, man.
Yeah. And that's really interesting because, they sent away Matt Stafford away to the Rams and got their next 2 first-round picks. And last year, since they won the Super Bowl, it was the 32nd pick, which they used to trade up to get Jameson Williams. But they still have the Rams first round pick this year, and the Rams are 3-9 right now. So right now, if the season was done, the Lions would have the 3rd overall pick before sending their franchise quarterback away to the Rams. So that would be really interesting. So as you said, Jason, Jared Goff is balling out. He's doing a hell of a job this season and he's making the most of that young team. The third pick, do you buy into Jared Goff a little bit longer and go get a defensive stud because clearly the defensive needs another part, or do you say, hey, we're going with a quarterback, we're going to try to continue the ascent of this offense?
I'm going to defer to you on this one, man.
I think they're at projected right now. They're at picks 4 and 13 with their own and with the Rams, right? If I am Detroit, and I don't think a quarterback's going to fall to 4. So if those quarterbacks go 1-2, which I think is probably going to happen with Stroud and Bryce Young, I think maybe Detroit waits and takes one of them at 13 or maybe in the second round. But if I'm Detroit with all that draft capital, I get a quarterback that you absolutely love in that top 5 if he's there, and then you still have pick 13. You could trade down and pick up more capital. You can still get a day 1 starter, right? It's those teams like the Texans that obviously have to take a quarterback, but those teams maybe on the fringe, you take a quarterback with your only first rounder and he doesn't work out, and it's like, oh shit, we just blew our draft. Even if they draft a guy and sit him for a year behind Goff and develop him, you still have another top 15 pick, if not a top 10 pick. So I don't think it's as risky, but we know that you have to have a quarterback. And as good as Jared Goff is, he deserves to be a starting quarterback. He's played really well. He's not going to take Detroit to a Super Bowl. And Detroit knows they're not going to be competing for a Super Bowl in the next 2 years. So if you love a quarterback in the top 5, that you can sit for a year and develop, that you believe can get you that next level in 3 years, I think that's the route you have to go. That's just my personal opinion.
No, that makes a lot of sense. This is something I know you guys have talked about in the past, and how MCDC, man, he's fostering a culture there that I'm a little worried. I'm a little worried as a NFC North rival, that if he gets that quarterback, man, watch out for the Lions. Watch out for the Lions. And like you said, if they can get a quarterback that has that potential and can sit behind Goff and learn, that's a dangerous recipe right there.
And one of my best friends is a huge Lions fan. He likes the Packers, but he's Lions first, Packers second. And he sent me a picture after Detroit won this last week, and it's this is a direct quote from MCDC, and he said, "When I make sweet love to Mrs. Campbell tonight, it's going to be on a bed of assorted victory furs we usually reserve only for sex after big wins and after we watch Keanu Reeves movies. Rosario, if you're listening right now, please start aerating my sex pelts. They're in the basement man cave between my hunting bow and Paul Walker cutout." That is a real quote.
I love everything about what you just said.
He is officially my favorite person in the NFL.
And end the podcast right there. I love it.
Drop mic.
Shout out B. Myers, my buddy, Lions fan.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, I mean, like you guys have said in the past, like the fostering that culture, that's something that like the Packers have done. MCDC's worrying me, man, because I love that guy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
Nick and I talk about it. The head coach doesn't win games anymore. The coordinators do. The head coach has to put all the pieces together and set the tone and set the standard and put the right coordinators in place. But the coordinators are the guys. So DC, he doesn't have to be the smartest guy in the room. He doesn't have to be the guy calling all the plays and making all the personnel changes. He's got to rely on his coordinators. They have a really good offensive coordinator. They fired, was it their D-backs coach? I thought they're going to fire their defensive coordinator, but I mean, the NFL is all about culture, man, and if you're bought in. And that's another thing, too, with drafting a rookie quarterback. That quarterback's got to be the right guy to own the locker room, which Goff has, right? Those guys trust in Goff, and they follow him, and they play harder, just like they do for MCDC. So that's a big piece that I think people take for granted, especially in today's game.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And that's a really good point about the head coach. And as much shit as Jeff Saturday got from getting that job as an interim head coach in Indianapolis, you see it all over the NBA. You see it all over baseball in the majors, of guys coming off the analyst desk on ESPN, and they're getting thrown into a management role. It's not because they have 10, 15, 20 years of coaching experience. It has nothing to do with that. It's just they know the game, they know the guys, they know how to get in that locker room and, just like you said, create a culture. And as much shit as, like I said, as Jeff Saturday got, I wouldn't be surprised if that's more of a trend when it comes to head coaches in the NFL and then in the near future too.
And Dan Campbell talked about that. Jason, do you ever watch Hard Knocks on HBO?
I have not. I am definitely interested in checking it out, but I haven't had a chance to yet.
Yeah, it's only like 6 episodes, so if you have the time, but they had the Lions this year, so it was so fun. And Dan Campbell talked about bringing in a staff of coaches who understood a locker room.
Yep.
No, so he brought in guys that had NFL experience and understood their positional groups and could manage their positional groups to be efficient. And then he ties it all together. So yeah, I agree with you 100%, Nick. Look at Belichick. I mean, Belichick was the smartest guy in the room, but he wasn't making every decision of everything. He had the best coordinators in the NFL working with him, and he set the standard. Like, you come to fucking work every day, and you might not agree with it, but his leadership style worked. And I think MCDC has got that franchise reinvigorated. And I think Saturday might be able to do the same thing with the Colts if he brings in the right crew as well for to fill out the coaching staff.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Any last thoughts on the NFC North before we get into our players of the week and stuff, and we can dabble into some other NFL?
Yeah, the Bears
Actually,
what
was that?
The Bears still suck.
Yeah, true that. I didn't get a chance to watch your complete last week's podcast, so I was wondering if you guys had a chance to talk last week about Jordan Love filling in the week or the game prior to that. I'm just kind of curious what your thoughts are. Like, are you excited, or like, did he dispel any sort of misgivings that you might have had? I know, like, last year we saw him against the Chiefs and it was kind of rough. Now, thank you very much.
Obi. Obi's delivering beer for Jason in Washington now. Or Oregon.
Montage of Obi running through the snow across the country. But that did. I seeing Jordan Love in the game against the Chiefs last year for Rodgers' COVID game, to the game against the Eagles. That's the game it was, right? Where he came in the second half there. Did that dispel any of the worries about whether or not he is a worthy successor? I'm just kind of curious what your guys' thoughts are.
Jason, can I ask you a question before I dive into that?
It sounds like you just did.
Okay, a second one, another one, third question.
Sure.
So, what is your opinion on Aaron Rodgers?
I'm up in the air as far as his. Obviously, the guy's got the talent, and obviously he's playing injured right now. My fantasy football team is Ayahuasca Dream. I like the guy. I think he's interesting. Don't necessarily agree with a lot of his viewpoints. He's got the skill to sling the ball, obviously, but I don't know. I feel like he's going to stick around for another year, and I don't know what to think of that because of his injuries this year. I don't know if like it's a skill issue or like a diminishing with age kind of issue. Like, obviously, even like a Rodgers, old guy Rodgers is still going to be better than 90% of the league. I don't know. it's a mystery, or as Rogers would say, it's a beautiful mystery.
Yeah. Oh, to go back to your question about I agree that Rogers is going to be back because I think he knows that if he decides to retire, that we're going to have $60 million in dead money or approximately next year if he decides to retire, because there was so much guaranteed money and all, and how that contract was structured. I think that Aaron Rodgers likes that he kind of has that sort of control over that. And I think, but in deep down, he loves Green Bay, and I don't think he would do that. I don't think he's going to set us up to fail like that. So I think he's coming back.
That for sure.
He's coming back. And in terms of Jordan Love, we have talked about him. I don't know how we got into it a little bit. But you don't pay a guy $50 million a year if you think that you have the next up and coming superstar on your bench. It's just no different than what Aaron Rodgers did with Brett Favre. They knew what they had in Aaron Rodgers. So when Brett Favre said he was going to retire, they said, okay, thank you for your service. Have a nice retirement. And then he played the whole game coming back and forth bullshit. Yeah. So, and then they said, we're going, as Mike McCarthy said, the train has left the station. So, they're not paying Aaron Rodgers that much money if they believe in Jordan Love. How did he look against the Eagles? I thought he had one very, very good throw when he was kind of pushed over to the left on the left hash, or the left side on the left hash, and threw it on a rope over to the right sideline. I thought that was a hell of a throw. That was a big boy. That was a big boy throw for sure. But the rest of them, I feel like those receivers they were just so wide fucking open. I think anybody could have hit him personally.
Yeah, so, I mean, I know that they kind of went a little nuts about the Christian Watson play, but like he just hit him on a slant, and then Watson did the rest.
They had a safety on him.
Danger zone as he turned on the Jets. You know, good lord.
Yeah, they were playing cover one, so they're playing cover one, which is that same coverage that Scotty Miller burnt us on in the NFC Championship. They have a deep safety who covers as everything. That's his responsibility. And then the other safety kind of comes in. Well, this time that safety was covering Christian Watson, a 6'5", 4'3", 40 Christian Watson man coverage. I'm sorry, but a safety covering him. Yep. Yes. And a rookie safety, can't remember his name, who had a bunch of very good plays that game for Philadelphia, but you put him on an island in the back just to cover the entire field and
the guy
by yourself.
Had the pick, right?
Yep. Yeah, Andy came up and had a good tackle. He had a good game, but you can't expect him to do all of that by himself. I'm sorry. Christian Watson against a safety, that's as good of a mismatch as you can get in the NFL. So,
Dan, why, like, quarterback extraordinaire yourself, what are your thoughts like after seeing that?
Yeah, I mean, it's good that he looks better. I mean, that's encouraging. Rodgers and the coaching staff and everyone have spoken so glowingly of Jordan Love, and I've told Nick this and on the podcast multiple times that Jordan Love was put into just about as bad a situation as you could be, and he has handled it with grace and professionalism. He is always positive on the sideline. He does his job. I want to root for the guy. I was a fan of his out of college. I didn't like that we drafted him where we drafted him, right. But I was a fan of his. But I'm with Nick. Fans and analysts and TV personalities, they all think they know what's going on, but nobody knows what's going on more than a head coach and a general manager. And just like these contracts, when they're like, why did a team with a franchise quarterback take a quarterback in the third round? It's because they know their franchise quarterback is not a franchise quarterback. And to Nick's point, I think Green Bay knows now Jordan Love's a good number 2. He's a good teammate, but I think that the writing is on the wall with the rest of his time on the field, that he's just not going to be it moving forward. And I think that's why Green Bay has also kind of bent over to Rodgers the last year and a half, knowing that they probably fucked up, and at least they're owning up to it. but I think they know that Jordan Love is not the answer. That doesn't make me happy that I was right, that I was mad that they drafted him, but as a fan, it's encouraging to see him play well. You know, he made some good throws, but I'm already thinking about who the next guy is in a year when Rodgers is gone and it's not Jordan Love.
You think we just kind of let Jordan Love take the reins for a few years while we draft somebody else, or do you
That's
think
tough.
I see that happen.
With our team personally right now, and so much can change in a year or two, right? An off season and the draft and who's available. There's a lot of quarterbacks this year. I don't see us drafting a quarterback this year. I could see maybe next year if Rodgers was like, hey, this is my last season. I definitely could see Green Bay drafting a quarterback there. But I think because we are on the cusp and we do have a pretty good team, I don't see us drafting a quarterback at least in high capital, like first or second round. I could see us maybe taking a fourth round flyer, but even then nowadays, like how many quarterbacks that were drafted after the top 3 rounds end up being starters?
right?
You know, Brady was 23 years ago. Outside of him, I can't name very many.
Yep. And how many quarterbacks go their entire rookie contract plus that 5th-year option and then end up going to be successful, you know?
Right.
Right. So
Yeah, he went into a shit situation. I could still see them trying to give him a year to see what happens, like a full year, just as a transition to the next one. But then
Dream scenario: we win the Super Bowl next year. Rodgers retires, and the fan base doesn't give a shit for 2 years as we rebuild.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like it just buys us a couple years of like
will of
happiness.
existence.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, guys, I think we better get into some predictions here and some.
All right. I'm gonna get my betting app up here.
Let's do some. Let's do some player of the weeks and then some locks and some upsets, and then we'll kind of talk on that a little bit. So, Jason, I'm gonna start with you. So I always like to let the guest pick first in our group text because I don't want to steal anybody. So let you go, but why don't you start off with who you thought was week 13, the player of the week?
So obviously, not being in your league, I didn't pick based on like fantasy points or anything. I just went off as somebody who I thought went off. And dude, Devontae Adams, man, that guy went nuts. He went nuts. The guy was like Luke Skywalker in Star Wars with Yoda on his back catching some of those balls. The touchdown to the left side of the end zone, and like the ball warped through the defender's arm and he still ends up with it. And I was gonna lose myself like when I saw that one-handed catch on the sideline that ended up, he ended up stepping out of bounds so it didn't catch, or stepping out of bounds so it wasn't a catch. Guy just balled out. It was something special to watch. So Devontae Adams was my pick. Miss him, wish he was back in the Packers, but can't deny greatness.
Yeah, he really did. Yeah, he did have he's having a hell of a season too. And it's just I don't really think he's used to losing very much. But
don't be a cameraman in his way. That's all you gotta do.
Yeah. Well, I went with and I do believe that Devontae Adams was the highest scoring fantasy player this week. So that was a good pick, Jason.
All right.
Yeah. But I went with AJ Brown, who had the same number of catches and the same number of touchdown receptions, just short about 58 yards, but still had a hell of a game against his former team. So I bet you that felt really, really good for him. Yeah, both good picks. So, Jason, so who do you think is going to ball out in week 14?
So I apparently think that this is or have heard that this is something that runs in the family, but I'm going with Jamar Chase. I just, he was injured for so long, and he had his I'm considering like a warm-up game back last week, and then next week I think that the Browns, with that whole situation going on with their quarterback, I feel like there's going to be a weird vibe to it, and I could see the Bengals feasting a little bit. So call it a gut feeling here, but I think Jamar Chase is gonna have himself a week.
Well, I hope that you are right in because I'm gonna need that, Jason. I'm gonna need that prediction to come true big time. And I am on board with you there, not because I like Jamar Chase, and I've gushed plenty about Jamar Chase in our past 12 podcasts, which is why I was excited when you had picked him. But I agree. I think
I just have to say, I'm also playing against Jamar Chase in fantasy this week, but I still think he's gonna ball out.
Yeah. But hey, I hear you. But the whole quarterback situation, they barely squeaked out a win. And Deshaun Watson looked like shit against his former team, and I know he hasn't played in 700 days and all that. But I think the Bengals are going to wipe the floor with the Browns this weekend too. So, hoping that Jamar has a big game. He had a really, really good first game coming back against a good Chiefs team. So hopefully you can continue that trend. So I went with a surprise, a rookie in George Pickens. And I'm not sure if you saw, but George Pickens was very, very upset at the end of the game last week. And he came off the sideline in one of the last offensive drives for the Steelers and said, "Throw me the fucking ball," really, really loud. Cameras caught it. And after, Mike Tomlin said that they asked him about it. And this could just be another sign of another psychopathic Pittsburgh Steeler wide receiver, for all we know. But
Mike questions that he had.
Right. Oh, I'm sure a few. But Mike Tomlin said that he loved seeing the fire. He loved seeing that Pickens wanted the football. And I think that Kenny Pickett is going to kind of wisen up a little bit, and not force it, but maybe look his way a little bit more often. And I think George Pickens is going to have a good game against a struggling and beat up Baltimore team. So
the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And if you watch the NFL over the last couple of years, you hear these riffs of these wide receivers going off on the sidelines and in their post-game conferences. And what do teams come out and do the next week? They feed the diva the rock. So I'm with both of you guys. Talking about Cleveland a little bit. Obviously, Cincinnati's got a matchup against Cleveland. Nick, I texted you a little bit. Deshaun Watson looked terrible last week. He looked bad. They beat Houston because Houston is just terrible. And Cleveland's defense actually was the 5th highest fantasy scoring person.
2 touchdowns, right?
Yeah, they scored 30. I think their defensive team scored 31 fantasy points. Deshaun Watson looked bad, and Cleveland was throwing the ball way too much, trying to get him back. I know he's rusty, and I'm sure he'll get better. But since I have Nick Chubb in both of my leagues, I was sad to see that. But yeah, I love your guys' picks this week. I'm a big believer in George Pickens. Pittsburgh's looking better every week. Kenny Pickett's looking better every week. George Pickens has big play potential, and obviously Jamar Chase is a monster. Nick, I'm surprised you didn't pick your boy Joe Burrow for Player of the Week this last week, because he, I believe, was the second number 2 fantasy quarterback this last week. But I like your guys' picks.
You know, I didn't know how controversial we wanted to get here. I almost picked Deshaun Watson for my Player of the Week, just because I don't think, as far as the NFL community goes, that any quarterback or any player made anybody happier than Deshaun Watson. Like, the NFL community probably loved seeing him go out there and shit the bed.
Yeah.
But I figured I'll go with the real answer rather than the social commentary answer.
Yeah, I agree. I think everybody kind of enjoyed seeing him struggle that first week. I don't think that's gonna. I think he's gonna, like you said, he's gonna get better and better each week here.
It's gonna be tough. Like, obviously, like, for him, gonna be getting booed the entire time. I wonder how that's gonna affect the team around him. I mean, it seems like they're all like trying to do the whole rally as a team sort of thing, but like, man, that's a strange situation to be in out there. You have to think that that's going to affect the product of the field.
And
Yeah.
think of the pressure that the front office has if he doesn't work out.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of like Denver right now with Russell Wilson. How head coach is under pressure, the coordinator's under pressure, the GM's under pressure. In Cleveland, they're gonna get a freebie this year just because he came in so late. But if he struggles into the start of next season, you're gonna have some conversations around that decision and that $200 million that they threw his way.
Yeah, for sure.
And don't forget, Houston's got their first round picks for the next couple of years. So, but well, why don't we get into our locks and upsets?
That's right.
Hold please.
Oh,
That was our family. We're gonna do a little family skit this week.
Whoa, all right, there we go.
Can you see, or am I still sharing?
no.
And I don't see, I just see you guys. It's a beautiful
Our
picture.
beautiful faces.
There we go. So we'll let you get into this again, Jason. But my question at the bottom is: this the week of the bird?
And it looks
Look
like
at
it, yeah.
that.
Good Lord.
Wow. Interesting. Well, Jason, I'm up 2 games now. Did I go 2-0 again last week?
Yes, you did.
Oh, hell yeah. I gotta start using these over in our pick'em league. Jason, why don't you start off with your lock and we'll do your lock and upset, and then I'll take over after you're done.
All right. Well, my lock is the Chiefs because they're playing the Broncos. I feel like somebody's got to get Elmer on the line here because this horse needs to be made into glue. All right. Like the Broncos are a dumpster fire. I don't see any way at all that the Chiefs can end up blowing this game. Like Mahomes can play all the, I was gonna make a what's his name, Kyler Murray reference right there. Like Mahomes can go home and play all the Call of Duty he wants and still come out and just mop the floor with the Broncos. There's no way in hell that the Chiefs are gonna lose this game. Yeah, Broncos. That's just I feel bad because Hackett, being a Packers guy, really thought that he might have some potential, but it seems like him and Wilson are just a bunch of nothing right now. I don't see any potential there.
Yeah.
And then for my upset, I went with the Ravens because despite Jackson most likely being out, I don't see a lot of potential in the Steelers. I know that you guys are like high on Pickens and somebody like Pickett, and what was it, like Pickett, and then who was your pick for the breaking out player of the week?
Pickens. So there's Pickens
Pickens,
and
yeah.
Pickett.
So Pickens and Pickett.
Yep.
I don't see there being that much of a fall off without Jackson. I know that's kind of a bad idea to say out loud, but I think that given a week to game plan, the Steelers, what are they, like 5-8? Yeah. I just feel like there's a potential for an upset there. I don't have any real reason. Like I'm not a savant by any means when it comes to NFL ideology, but man, something about it just screams Ravens to me.
Yeah, and
No,
I mean, to your point, Jason, Huntley, their backup, is not that much. He's not that much different of a player than Lamar. I mean, obviously, if Lamar was playing, Baltimore wouldn't be an underdog, but I like that pick. And to your point of KC over Denver, how sad is it that Denver's defense gave up 3 points through 59 and a half minutes of the game last week, and they still couldn't win? That's how bad the Broncos are. They gave up that touchdown with 28 seconds left to Tyler Huntley, but Denver's defense is so good. But we know Kansas City's offense is better than Denver's defense. And how is Denver going to score?
They'll
So
find the end zone for sure.
that lock of the week, I mean, this spread could be 14.5, and I think I would still take KC.
Yeah. Yep, and I hear you. It's too bad for Nathaniel Hackett. You know, you think that you're going to bring in a franchise quarterback, and you bring in an offensive mind there, and it just blew up. And I am putting, not saying Nathaniel Hackett doesn't deserve any blame, but I would put a large majority of that blame on number 3, and I love it, I love it. Just makes me smile. And I'm going to talk about his former team. My lock is going to be Seattle over Carolina. Another dumpster fire in Carolina. I think Seattle's going to kind of run over them with that. They've got a pretty sturdy defense. And
3.5 point spread though, huh?
Yeah, I believe they're on the road though. So
yeah, that makes sense.
But yep, I'm going with Seattle there. Geno Smith having a hell of a season. And then my upsets, this was a tough one for me. I know this is a little bit tighter of a spread, but with a healthy Kyler Murray, even though Call of Duty just did come out recently, I think he's I think he's gonna, and as good as that New England defense is gonna be, I think the Cardinals might be able to sneak this one out. They've got a lot of offensive firepower, and Kyler Murray can make a lot of people miss, even if his O-line breaks down. So that'll be a really interesting game. I think is that the Monday night game? It might be.
Arizona, New England, yeah.
Yeah, that'll be a really interesting game on Monday night. So
yeah, I like those picks because looking at my pick'em this week, I mean, obviously we pick against the spread in our pick'em league, Jason, but
yeah,
there's not a lot of underdogs that I like to win outright this week. So I think your guys' picks, I know they're kind of like closer to the line, but I don't think there's a lot of underdogs this week that I really love.
What was the biggest dog this week?
Houston and Dallas, 17.5.
What was it?
Oh,
Houston is a 17.5 point dog to Dallas.
17.5. Good Lord.
Yeah. That's college spreads right there.
Yeah, right. And I'm almost tempted to pick Houston on that one just because, I mean, you get into that second half when one team's up so much that they're going to let a few consolation touchdowns come in.
That's a lot of points to cover in NFL, but I think Dallas showed last week. I actually texted Nick before Sunday Night Football. Dallas played the Colts, and I was like, I changed my gut. I originally had Dallas, and I told my coworkers, I was like, Dallas's defense is going to get after Matt Ryan so much because Matt Ryan's just immobile in that Dallas D. Yeah, and it was so close in the first half, and I switched to Indianapolis right before kickoff because they were getting, I think, 8.5 or 9.5 points, thinking, oh, they can run the ball, they can slow the game down. It did not matter. So I agree with you, 17.5. That is a lot of points, but I think I might still ride Dallas just because is Houston going to be able to score? You got to figure Dallas is going to score 30.
No.
Yeah.
Micah Parsons is going to eat them alive. You know, it's a really, really bad matchup for my guy Dameon Pierce. It makes me nervous this week.
That guy I told Nick has Dameon Pierce, the rookie running back for Houston. He runs so angry. He runs like Adrian Peterson, not the style straight up, but just how he runs so hard. Yeah. I love that. I think he's going to be a great player, but yeah, man, Dallas's defense is going to be problems for Kyle Allen.
Yep. Strong cuts, and the second he's about to make contact, it's just violent. It's so violent. And he's fast. So, well, hey Dan, I think you have another segment that you were pretty excited about last night, 2 nights ago when we talked about this.
Yeah, so every week we try to do something different, and this is not my most beautiful slide I've ever created because again, I'm not a graphic artist. But we
see it before we pass any judgment.
We've got Jason on the show this week, and I know how excited Nick was to see you last month or a month and a half ago. I haven't seen you in a long time, but I always love to see you. So we had to do a little family thing here. So we're just gonna quick talk about some football families. We're gonna call it. And us Wisconsinites, we've had a lot of history with some football families because we've got that guy in the upper right-hand corner, that Clay Matthews, arguably the best football family of all time. And then you got those brothers in the bottom right corner, those Watt brothers that all played for the University of Wisconsin. So here's some famous families, and I'm curious on your guys' thoughts on these players. So let's end with the Mannings because I have some questions there, but let's start with the Watt brothers. Jason, how did you feel? And I don't know if you followed the draft as much, but JJ Watt was a top 10 pick, but people questioned his ceiling, like his potential. They knew he had the motor, he's a hard worker, but they didn't know if he was ever going to be athletic enough to be that game wrecker. And even though he had already proven himself, TJ Watt, then his brother, got passed up in that top 10 because of the same stuff. They're like, oh, he's got the motor, his brother's doing well, but he doesn't have that potential. So I'm curious on like your thoughts on them. And then Nick, with you as well, with all those teams that kept passing on TJ Watt. I know me as a Packer fan, I was just praying for us to trade up and go get this guy, but curious on the Watt brothers.
So I absolutely am the worst person to ask this question because I go straight for, he's from Wisconsin, draft him, gonna be great. Hometown, gonna be playing for the family every week. Let's go. I don't think in terms of combine stats and college stats. I'm going, Wisconsinite, Scouty, bring it, let's go. So I absolutely, both of them, when I saw them in the draft, I'm like, if they're available, why aren't we taking them? And it seems like a no-brainer to me.
I hear you. I would have loved to. I was a little bummed at when obviously we weren't going to have a chance at JJ because he was taken top 10, I believe 9th overall. Dan, if maybe you can correct me on that if I'm wrong. But
JJ, what pick did you say?
I think 9th.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think TJ was like 15 to 20 range, late teens, I believe. TJ, yeah, I think TJ was.
He was at the end of the first in the mid to late 20s.
I just remember he was sliding, and I'm like, how do you not?
Yeah, I know. I was pretty bummed about that one. I was really, and then when we traded out, what year? Well, he just signed his contract extension last year after his 5th year option. So let's do the math. Probably 2016, 2017. Okay. So yeah, I was pretty bummed that we didn't take him either because part of me did think that he was going to be a first rounder strictly because of his brother. He wasn't nearly as big and strong, but that motor and the name, I thought that's kind of what propelled him into the first round. But hey, when you have a relentless drive, that makes up for. I mean, what do they preach to kids when when the kids are playing sports? Doesn't matter if somebody is more talented than you. At some point you're gonna outwork them, and you're gonna be, you outwork them, you're gonna pass them up. So, those Watt brothers, man, they just go and go and go, and yeah, that's just too bad. Too bad we traded out of the first round to go get Kevin King and Vince Beagle.
Oh God.
This is supposed to be a happy time, all right?
Yeah.
Positive podcast. Positive.
All right, so we'll move up then. So the Matthews family here is a multi-generational, arguably probably the best football family of all time. So Clay Sr., the guy you see in the black and white photo, fun fact, he was drafted in the 25th round of the 1949 NFL draft.
Good Lord.
He had 2 sons, Clay Matthews Jr., who when he retired, I believe was the 3rd leading tackler in the history of the NFL. And then Bruce Matthews, the offensive lineman there for the Houston Oilers, who's now a Hall of Famer. Clay's kids, we know Clay the third, and Casey Matthews, who played in the NFL for the Eagles. And then Bruce's son, Jake, plays for the Atlanta Falcons, who also has been an All-Pro before. So 3 generations of some pretty top-notch football players with brothers, cousins, uncles, grandkids. So pretty crazy stuff there. Obviously, we know Clay Matthews. Bottom left, you've got the Diggs brothers. Watching them in the Pro Bowl was kind of fun when they were going up against each other. Stephon and Trayvon. I've got the others listed with Gronks, Howie Long and his kid, the Roll brothers who all played corner, the Bosa brothers, the Cromarties.
Didn't their dad play too?
I believe so. Yeah. I mean, genetics, right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And then the Manning family, which people probably, the lesser of football fans or more of the younger generation knows about the Mannings. So I'm curious, Jason, I don't know if you know as much about Arch, but Nick, how you feel about possibly the next generation of Manning coming up.
Well, Jason, have you heard about Arch Manning at all?
I have been following a little bit. I've been reading some articles here and there. Who did he end up committing to? Was it Mississippi?
Texas.
Or Texas? That was wasn't it? Which one of them went to Mississippi? Was that Eli?
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I just know that there's a lot of hype going around. As far as what to think of it, I'm kind of on the outside looking in on this one. So I'm gonna defer to you guys and listen to your expertise and spew that like it was my own knowledge when I talk to my friends.
Yeah, Dan, you probably know a little bit more about it. I think I get more invested in the NFL more than anything because I feel like you can invest in a player longer than 3 years before they either don't make the team or they get drafted. And then I have to watch a favorite college player go to the Chicago Bears or the Minnesota Vikings, and it just pisses me off. So I get I get more invested in the NFL, but from some of the tape that I've watched on him, I have seen some videos on him. Looks like he's a really, really crisp thrower of the football. Not and maybe a little bit more athletic than his uncles. But I'm excited to see what he can do. I think from what I gather, it's a pretty loaded quarterback room in Texas, and he may have to redshirt that first year. But either way, I'm excited to see what he can do because I'm sure he's going to be plastered all over the fucking television when he's got pads on in Texas. So
Yeah, and the big interesting thing is Texas currently has the former number one high school recruit quarterback in Quinn Ewers, who originally signed with Ohio State, but didn't get the starting job, so transferred to Texas, and he's actually looked pretty good this year in his first official season. So it's interesting. I mean, I don't know how you're going to be able to bench Manning, but arguably now Texas has two of the last three number one quarterback recruits, which is kind of weird because Texas hasn't exactly been the powerhouse in the last 10 years that they used to be.
Yeah, they're trying though.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought this would be fun to do a little football family type stuff.
Hell
Absolutely.
yeah.
We have a family episode.
I love it.
Yeah, and also to your point, Nick, obviously Archie's the dad. The most athletic of the kids was actually Cooper, which is Arch's dad, and Cooper played college wide receiver, but his career ended due to injury. So obviously Arch has the pedigree from the family, but has a little bit more of that athleticism from dad.
It's probably got which probably came from Archie, who was quite the scrambler himself as a quarterback way back when. So
did you know when Archie played, there was no such thing as an offensive line in New Orleans?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Should see some of that tape on him. Jason, I'm not sure if you've seen it, but that guy was just running around in circles every time he snapped the ball. It's crazy.
Like arguably the worst offensive line in the history of the NFL.
Maybe he wasn't the most athletic, but he might not have been the most athletic quarterback in his time, but he had to turn into one real fucking fast.
he looked like Johnny Football back in the 70s, like Johnny Manziel, Texas A&M, just running around chucking the ball.
Yeah, right.
Well, oh boy. Well, we've been at this for a little while. And Jason, I know I told you that we always shoot for about an hour, but it usually goes a little bit longer than that. And it did this just a touch here. But you guys, I have a few I have 4 items on Nick's notes. But do you guys have any? Dan, I'll let you start.
I've got another 2 hours before I have to leave for soccer, so bring it on.
Sounded like Brost. Come on, man, let's go. We gotta do something. He was ready to go.
Brost would have done a 24-hour podcast if we would have let him.
I think you would have. Yep. But Dan, I'm gonna start with you. Do you have any last thoughts?
Deep Treats is gonna win the 920 Dynasty Fantasy League. Thank you for everyone for your donations. I've been trying to limit the shit talking all year because it's bad juju. And I'm sure I'm shooting myself in the foot here, but I'm gonna win, and I don't care who gets in my way. And I hope M gets last and loses the toilet bowl, so I get the #1 pick next year. But yeah, go Saquon Barkley, go Nick Chubb, and I hate saying this, but go Kyler Murray.
Interesting. I hear you, but you don't have to keep rubbing it in our faces, Dan. We know you made the playoffs already. You kind of simmer down.
But gotta win it. It doesn't matter if you don't win because you play to win the game.
That's right. Just like when we play the Bears, right, Dan?
Yep.
Well, Jason, any last thoughts?
Oh, I got a lot of thoughts. How many of them are relevant? Very few. I mean, I really appreciate that you guys brought me on here. Am I the first non Dynasty football guest? Have you got other ones? No,
we've had one other. He's a big Bears fan, but yeah, David Wood.
That doesn't count. Doesn't matter.
But you are the first and only family member that we've had on.
I'll take it. But no, this is a lot of fun. I really was kind of worried because, like I said, like you guys talking football each week. Like I've been watching all of them, and you guys seem like you got like all the knowledge down. And I was a little worried that I wouldn't be able to keep up, but you guys make it really easy to talk to you, and obviously being family, it comes like second nature here. It's really easy. Can't wait to see you guys in person. Obviously, Dan, I don't know if Nick mentioned it, but we were hoping to maybe try and catch a visit with you while I was back. But like my visits back to Wisconsin, I don't really call them vacations because there's just so much going on. It's a trip. But yeah, this has been a lot of fun, and I'm really glad that you asked me. Come back anytime, obviously.
Well, next time that Nick goes to visit, maybe I can tag along, and I have not been out to Oregon or that far west yet, so I can do a little vacay, and then I can check out your neck of the woods.
Absolutely, that'd be a blast. We got ourselves a nice little area that we live in right here. Me and my girl actually look into buying a house here, hopefully in the next year or so. So like, we'll have the opportunity, and I know for the podcast, all the people out there in Tibet and Newcastle that are listening in, they might not find this that interesting, but yeah, I'm hoping I can get you guys out here, show you guys a good time. That's for sure.
Maybe Basil Hayden's will sponsor a trip.
Right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
All right, well, I'm gonna run through some Nick's notes, and then I'll have a couple closing thoughts here. All right, so first off, I'm not sure if you guys had seen or not, but did you see all of the Mike White t-shirts on those New York Jets players getting on the plane? There was almost a dozen New York Jets players that had shirts that said Mike effing White on them. So I'm thinking the MILF Hunters time in New York is done. I think, and after this year, he's out of there.
Was Wilson wearing one?
No. No, I don't think he was anywhere to be seen. The second thing I had here, I don't know if you guys have ever seen or ever heard of a wide receiver getting a general manager fired. Well, you have now. AJ Brown just got the general manager of the Tennessee Titans he's canned. He's shit canned. He's done.
Yeah,
Brian
yeah.
Robertson is out 3 days after the Eagles just beat the shit out of the Titans. So you tell me if there's ever been a time that a wide receiver has ever gotten a general manager fired on a different team. I bet you it's never happened. It may never happen again. But a little fantasy thing here. There's four players that are non-quarterback that are projected over 20 points. And for the first time, one of my players is one of those players over 20 points, and that's CD Lamb going up against Houston. And they are all wide receivers. If you can take a guess on who they would be.
Oh, I thought Kelsey was 20. Did he fall off?
No, he's not. I looked through everybody's other squads, but anyways, max points, total points. Dan, you are still leading the league in max points. I am very, very close, in a close second. But what's really, really pitiful is I have almost 400 points less than my max points, which means my efficiency this season has been awful. Once I get that straightened out, we're clear sailing to the championship. So,
and stat correction, Nick, Travis Kelsey is projected 20.4.
Oh, all right. Well,
Suck it.
is it? That's right. I guess so. All right. Well, hey, Jason, I know didn't mean to get away from what you had said before. I had to close with some Nick's notes here, but
Yeah, absolutely.
I truly appreciate you being on. I was really excited about this. I was super stoked to get. I was really excited that you accepted the invitation. And I think it was an absolute blast. And I am looking forward to having you on again. Which hopefully it won't be. I think I have like 4 or 5 new guys that I've reached out to. So we're gonna have some, but so maybe it may be just after the football season. But as I've talked to Dan about in the past, maybe doing some things that are a little bit different than football once football season is done, just to keep this going and keep having fun. But I really, really appreciate you coming on, and I had a blast. It was amazing seeing you as always. So, and I know that
means like expanded, like let's get another guy or two in here. I can meet some of these guys and feed them with my intense NFL knowledge.
Yeah.
Hey, we can do a soccer segment, and we didn't get to ask.
Oh, we never even talked about that.
The World Cup.
Jason, I was going to say, so before we go, Jason, I know they're already like eliminating teams, but who's your team to win? What are there left? 8?
Yes, we are down to the last 8.
Who's going to win it?
Man, if they keep him on the bench, which Nick, you're going to be surprised about this. If they keep Ronaldo on the bench,
Portugal,
they might win it all. They look real good. And Ronaldo, I mean, I love the guy because he's been one of my favorite players for years and years. One of those guys that I compare myself to because he was born a month before me. I'm like, oh, I'm not doing the same thing as him.
Similar skill set. It's like me with LeBron, a couple months different, similar skill set,
Exactly. But no, Ronaldo's his diva level has been going off the wall lately. So if they keep him on the bench, I think Portugal might be able to take this. If not Portugal, then Brazil right there. But I'm looking forward to these next few matches. I think, what was it, Friday? We got Argentina, Croatia, and Brazil, Morocco. Is that what it is? No, Morocco plays Portugal. I can't remember who Brazil plays, but
England?
No, because England plays France on Saturday, I believe.
I didn't get to watch the last round because I was at work. I watched a lot of the round robin play, but I didn't get to see the first round of the elims.
Yeah. But I'm going with Portugal. That's my team right there that I think is going to win it all. Should probably throw some money on it, but we'll see. I'm not. That's how confident I am.
Football.
Yeah. Well, Dan, thank you again for everything that you do with these visuals. They're amazing as always. You don't need to be a graphics expert to do a good job, and we appreciate you. And again, Jason, good seeing you. Love you, and I cannot wait until next time.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you guys want, I'll be here to spew my stupidity at the world. That's for sure. The 3-4 million that we got watching across international borders. There we go.
All right, guys, it was been fun.